thanks to those who are come to the Zoom event on time, although there are not many of you, but on Facebook seem to have many. And for those people who are attending live on Facebook, I thank you for being on time as well. Today we okay. Let me just talk a bit about the history of this talk series. Okay, at first this talk series was started during a time of circuit breaker. So the first talk that I featured was by a lawyer. So his name is Sam Xiao. He was talking about something about, he was trying to educate the public about some of the rebate scheme from the government. So I mean, he was talking as a lawyer. Okay, so that was the first. The second talk was actually me myself talking about business model. But if you want to listen to those videos, you can see now. But the third event, which is today, I decided to invite Colin Tan and interview him. Okay, the reason is very simple, because during the last 2 months, what I've been hearing from the market is that real estate is going to be hot, and I'm also real estate is going to be hot. Now is the time to put in money, all these things. So as a management consultant, I deal with business auditing. Somehow I just intuitively feel that advice is not very correct, but I cannot pinpoint where is it wrong. Okay, somehow, of course, also I'm also muddled with the fact that during the time of SARS, that it was also true that after SARS, the real estate price actually go up. So again, I couldn't understand why. I just remember what happened. So when people tell me that after COVID, the things will go up, all these things, I just feel that it's not right, but I still cannot pinpoint what is wrong. Okay, I cannot pinpoint. It's just that because I am not professional in the area, so I do not understand enough. Okay, so of course, also at the same time, as a businessman, I also look for other officers and all these things. Everyone is telling me, we are still in high demand. I go to this place, but when you go to this place and then they say high in demand, you just walk around the building, it just doesn't feel that it's high demand. Just based on observation alone, I couldn't tell. But again, like I said, like a layman, I'm just a user of office. Okay, as a layman, as a layman, I must give people the benefit of the doubt. That means he's a professional. If he said it, maybe there is a demand that I just cannot feel it, or I cannot see it as a layman. Okay, so again, like I say, I feel that something is wrong, and I just couldn't pinpoint it. Okay, because I'm not professional in this area. So as a result of this, then I was thinking, I really don't want, many of my friends who are dabble with real estate, I don't want them to make the wrong decision. When you make a real estate decision, you are involving a lot of money. Okay, I do not want them to be harmed. And of course, usually, so many of my friends always say when a crisis comes, it's time to buy and buy and buy. Again, the thing is that I feel that I don't think the advice is wrong, by when you buy is still important. So I cannot pinpoint when to buy it. So maybe today, Mr. Colin Tan will advise you all more clearly. But at the same time, I just have a disclaimer. Okay, this session is an information sharing session. Okay, no matter whether you take our advice or don't take our advice, none of us, neither me nor Mr. Colin Tan, is responsible for any of the loss you may suffer from following or not following our advisor. So today is just information sharing. You just gather as much information and you just make an educated guess on how you shall move on from now on. And okay, let me just and then of course, where I invited Colin Tan is because I have those doubts. I don't know how to answer them. I just feel that what I was told may not necessarily be true. Okay, but again, I don't know how to pinpoint. Okay, but there was one time I saw one of the live video done by Mr. Colin Tan, when he was driving a car, so he was talking about real estate in general. Then I say, oh my God, he pinpointed the right area. Okay, then it allows me, it gives me context as to what I'm feeling. Is that more or less right or more or less wrong? So I get a better idea. Okay, so let me introduce him. The next slide. Okay, Mr. Colin Tan. Okay, He has vast experience in real estate industry for 28 years. He's 28 years. It's not 2 years and 8 months. He's 28 years since 1992. Started as a realtor and went on to transform various companies to become a top 5 company in Singapore. Started Colin Training and Consultancy in 2005 and went on to be recognized as #1 real estate training company and first multi-million real estate training company in Singapore with the highest fee due to the highest success rate of training. According to an independent survey, 86% who attended the training applied and saw their income multiplied manifold. Okay, received the Management Excellence Award 2015 from Singapore Business Review and became the only real estate agent to win Innovation Award 2014 from Singapore Brand. Okay, but okay, before I go on to the next slide, actually the last few days I actually met up with some of my associates. So some of them actually were real estate agents, and then they told me that they actually have gone for training under Colin Tan. But I didn't know he's so famous until so many of my associates that I didn't know that last time used to do real estate is also his client or his student, you know. So actually after I talked to some of my associates the last few days, of course I'm a friend of so-called Facebook friend we call it Mr. Colin Tan for a few years. So every now and then I see him talk about real estate, all these things. So I feel that he will give you a very balanced view, a very informational view of how we should treat real estate, especially in the time of COVID-19. So thanks to Mr. Colin Tan for joining us, and maybe without further ado, let me go to the first question. Okay, the first question is, okay, Colin, okay, what is the overall climate surrounding and concerning property investment now?
I think right now, if you talk about property investment, I honestly believe there is still time for you to wait in the horizon. Of course, there may be some potential sellers who may jump in right now and say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to wait around and let the market crash before I decide to sell my property. Are you getting echo?
No, I'm not getting echo. I'm not getting echo.
Okay.
So maybe I shall mute my mic. Okay, sorry.
What about now? Okay, because I've been hearing echo back. So far it's okay. Just check quickly. Okay. Anyway, back to this. So now right now it's not really an investment climate. You might see people buying properties right now. There are some people who
Sorry, Colin. Hello. Sorry, Colin. I think I muted you by mistake. Sorry. Hold on a second. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry. Just now for the last 20 seconds, it's completely muted. Can you repeat your answer?
Okay. Your question is the overall climate concerning property investment now? What is the overall climate? Now, obviously, you will see market moving down about, some people say 5%, 10%. But if you take every quarter, since some of the launches, maybe a year ago, quarter after quarter, there's been some adjustment, a few percent. So obviously, some buyers would come into the market and say, hey, this is a good opportunity for me. Now, I'm also aware that there are some people looking out for a good buy, but they are definitely looking for the Malay word here is lelong deals. Now, if you are a property investor, I would say right now is still not the best time to go in unless you have properties that are selling on the cheap. That means the sellers are really those who can foresee the market going down further, and they do not want to be trapped to compete with the rest of the property sellers later. And these savvy sellers may today in the market sell at the lowest price compared to any other people. Even so, it may not necessarily be the best price right now. Now, if you are on the ground, you cannot not feel that something is wrong with the economy. We have a lockdown where a lot of companies will not recover. This is not a joke. There's an article, okay, stating the Monetary Authority of Singapore chairman stating that we are in a dire situation. The word used is dire. And then we have the CEO of the chief executive of DBS saying that a lot of companies are going to close down. Now, when you look at the market right now, and if you understand what is going on right now, we have not reached the crisis or the so-called financial crisis that some of the real estate people are saying. They say we are in a crisis. Actually, no. If you read the latest news or the latest news quoting people from the International Monetary Fund, as well as the World Economic Forum or United Nations and things like this, they constantly are saying the coming crisis. So, are we in a crisis right now? We are heading towards one. So, if you are heading towards one, then would you want to get involved in an investment right now before a crisis comes or after a crisis happens? That decision is yours, and you should know better than me. Okay, you should understand what I'm talking about. Now, some of you may not be comfortable with what you are hearing right now because, unfortunately, there are people today who have invested wrongly, who have listened to the wrong advice, got into the market because of some gurus who are on Facebook telling you that they are still heavily invested, they are making money, and they're asking you to jump in with them. I would say you have to tread very, very cautiously. I would say that if you're talking about investment, are there property transactions right now? Definitely. And who are the people buying? Most of them are people who are buying because they need a property. They need a roof over their head. They're getting married. They need to expand, or maybe they have more children. They need to grow their family in a bigger property. Fine. That's bringing property back to its original position as described by Maslow as one of the basic needs of mankind. But if you ask me, is it a right product for investment right now? I won't say totally no, but most of it are not investment product right now because I expect property prices to go down a lot more. As much as you constantly hear people say that, you know, the property market, you know, keep going up, this is a lie. If you hear people say that to you, you immediately want to disqualify them. Because property, even if you look at the last 50 over years of Singapore, after our developed status in 1997, our market moves up and down. It doesn't keep going up like an emerging market anymore. So I would say that investment climate-wise, you still have time. You have a lot of time to wait till a market crash. I hope I answered your question. I know I've shared a bit more, but you know, I just wanted to give you a better picture overall.
Okay, let me just go on to the next question now. Okay, let me see. Let me just share the screen again. Okay, I will take this format. I will show the question on the screen. Then later, I will, when Colin is answering, I will just stop the sharing so that you know the whole screen will zoom into Colin as he speaks. If not, when the screen is there and then when he's talking, it just appears a small thumbnail. Okay. So the next question is, I understand a lot of property agents are still citing SARS as an example for investors to buy. Because during SARS time, it's after SARS, it was, instead of seeing the property crash, it actually go up instead, okay? So my question to you is that, okay, do you think the COVID-19 may have the same growth pattern? That means after the COVID-19 is over, you instead of seeing it crash, you will see it go up very high percentage point. Okay, I will pass over the time to Colin to answer this question.
Now, if you talk about SARS, and I've seen this mentioned before, there are real estate people who constantly share with people that when there is this SARS, property prices went up. After this MERS, property prices went up. But if you look at if you examine the two markets at that time, they were completely different market. SARS being somewhere in 2003 happened after you had the 9/11, September 11 in the US. It happened after the Iraqi war. At that time, the property market generally globally was already at the bottom. So economically, a lot of the economies, a lot of the real estate industries around the world would have seen property prices close to a bottom. So once it is at the bottom, obviously with SARS coming in later, it doesn't affect us so much. But not only that, SARS did not affect Singapore as much as it affected Hong Kong because it was something that happened in Hong Kong. Property prices in Hong Kong went down 70% after the Iraqi war and SARS. Singapore did not see that impact because we are still some distance away from SARS. But if you look at today's COVID, you look at today's so-called pandemic, it is not a distant event. It is not something that's happening in the US. It's not something that's happening in Hong Kong alone. It is happening in Singapore. We are experiencing lockdown. Where, as I mentioned earlier, even today, right? MAS, even today, right? DBS are saying that we are in a dire situation. Even if the COVID, may be gone, we are in dire situation, and the economy is expected to be very, very challenged. Now, if moving forward, there's going to be a disaster, then the next question is, can it compare with SARS in 2003? Not at all. And then if you look at our property prices, is it at the bottom right now? It is not at the bottom. So you know that right now, it is a completely different market from SARS. You know that when you compare with SARS, right now, every country is very, very connected to what is going on. It's not just like it's happening in some distant places where SARS was a lot more serious. And it also, right now, our property prices, if you look at the property price index, is relatively high. It's still very, very high compared to 2009, which for a long time, the government has been using that as a gauge. If you understand, and if you look back, our government started the anti-speculation measures in 2009. So if they started these anti-speculation measures in 2009, and they say in 2009, they say that property prices are too high, then if you look at 2009 and you ask yourself, hey, why is this too high? So can you imagine at that point in 2009, our government already is saying that the property prices are too high. That's so much higher than today versus 2009. You can go and look at the property price index and then you can gauge for yourself, right? At the end of the day. So you can't compare SARS right now with what we're experiencing COVID. And in SARS, we did not have a lockdown. We had a lockdown which seriously impacted our economy. It was a 2 months lockdown, and even right now, the market is not really opening. And if you are following the news, and you have to listen to what they are saying, the government is saying, we are asked to prepare for wave 2 or even wave 3. So if you are asked to prepare for wave 2 or even wave 3, if you are asked to prepare for wave 2 or even wave 3, then you got to ask yourself, if another lockdown happens for another 1 to 2 months, how would the economy take it? I think it's going to be even more serious than now. I hope I answered your question, the difference between COVID now and SARS in 2003.
Okay, let me take over the next question. Let me see the next question. Okay, just a reminder, because actually just now I could not when Colin was talking, I don't want to mute everyone halfway, because when I mute everyone halfway, he will be muted, which is just now the mistake I made. So now if I forgot to mute everyone, later you don't speak because you will interfere with his answer. But anyway, in any case, just to make sure after I display the next question, I'll mute everyone, but I will unmute. Hold on a second, let me just do it now. I'll mute all, but I will unmute Colin. Colin, can you test whether you can talk?
Yeah, can I speak?
Yeah, I heard you. Okay, so let me go to the next question. Okay, so the next question is, there are still many property investment guru telling people to invest with them. What do you say to that? Just before you answer, okay, this one is true. Actually, honestly, as a very Facebook-oriented person, I every day see a lot of Facebook advertising. Okay, some of them when I see, I mean, I don't want to name who is it, but okay, some of them will name like some of them they will not directly say let's buy commercial property, but they will say things like they were asked in the question. So in a way, they are trying to suggest or encourage you to buy commercial property, which in my opinion, those people who are doing business in commercial property should not do anything unless you are sure what's happening. For me, that's my point. But of course, I will leave it to Mr. Colin Tan to answer this question. Okay, Colin?
Okay, hi.
Okay.
This is a very good question. I would say that if everybody understands the real estate market, or everybody is on the ground, and even if you go out in the evening and you go to a place like Boat Quay or Clarke Quay, you will see things are very different from today. The market is quiet. There are a lot of people that are struggling. F&B is very severely hit. Social distancing is causing most of these commercial properties to only be able to operate at a 50% capacity, or for some cases could be a bit more, but still is a lot less than before. Now, if today you're talking about somebody having a retail outlet, or you're having an F&B outlet, at 50%, many of them, with the rental that they are paying right now, they can barely break even, or they would struggle. If the moratorium is removed, and as we can see right now, even our ERP is going to start operating in July 27, on July 27, and even the Central Expressway ERP prices are going to be increased by $1 in 2 gantries or something like that. So businesses in reality financially are not recovering. They are dealt with this social distancing issue, and these gurus asking you to invest in commercial properties with them, industrial properties with them, getting high rental. Yes, some of them you may get high rental now because, you know, some people, like I said earlier, if you were here in my talk earlier, you would know some savvy investors have already started giving massive discounts, selling their industrial properties because they are desperate. So there are desperate sellers out there, and therefore you get some good returns. But then the next question is this: what happens when the business owner runs this business and because of social distancing cannot operate at the productivity level that they want in terms of the return on investment? All these F&B outlets cannot get the maximum return from their rent. They will then go back to the landlord and they will request from the landlord to reduce rent. I see this happening. I will see this going forward, where a lot of the commercial offices, be it offices or be it industrial space or be it F&B spaces, where these tenants will definitely come back and say, hey, you know what? I only have 50% capacity. Please reduce my rent. Hey, you know what? I only have like that. It's either an office. If today I can have 10 people, tomorrow maybe I can only have 5 people working in my office. And then I have to say to the landlord, hey, please reduce my rent. And there will be another recurring impact on the market. It will be like a domino effect. The staff that are being asked to work at home to do social distancing will eventually be asked to either take unpaid leave, or they will be asked to cut down their salary. So now you have not just the staff, you know, of a few companies, but this will impact everybody working in an office, everybody working in an F&B outlet will be asked to do social distancing, will be asked to go on rotational basis. And when they go on a rotational basis, they will eventually be asked to take a cut on their salary. The government has made it clear that at the end of the day, these packages that they are giving out cannot continue indefinitely. So sooner or later, all these benefits will have to stop or be reduced significantly. The employers will then be hit very, very hard. And then the employers will go back to the landlords, they'll go back to the property owners and say, cut my rent. So the next question is, Colin, if that's the case, why are all these investment gurus, why are all these people keep telling you to invest and to join them in investing, the returns are good and so on and so forth? The truth is, how many people in this market are not invested or have a vested interest in the positive outlook of the economy? I would say to you, 90% or maybe more of the people who have invested, okay, and who are heavily invested into the market have a vested interest to continue to tell you that the market is good, as much as they know there is a massive disconnect between stock prices, real estate prices, and the real economy. Yes, so a lot of these gurus will keep telling you, because why? They themselves, many of these gurus, they themselves are heavily invested into the market with their students. I even heard that there are some gurus doing this kind of talk to convince people to invest in the properties or the shares of the properties that they have invested in, so that they themselves can get out of the market. That means there are some of these gurus who themselves were in the market are trying to liquidate their own shares to students of theirs. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, hold on. Okay, you know, this last information about the teachers trying to liquidate their shares to the student, that's something really new to me. And this is the first time I heard about it. Okay, I don't think that is very ethical now. But anyway, okay, let me go on to the next question now. But of course, okay, at the meantime, I would like to tell everyone, I think some of you have asked her to ask questions. Actually, on Facebook, there are 2 questions. On Zoom, there is 1 question. Terence asked a question, so later, Terence, I'll ask for you. So there is 1 or 2 more questions here. So after that, I will just shift to audience questions, okay? So at the meantime, let me just share the screen. Let me share the screen on the next question, okay? Okay, next question. Okay, if now in the resale market, there are good lelong deals, would it be advisable for investor to buy?
Now, again, if it's a real lelong deal, I think why not? Because you would have been compensated in case, in the event, if So for example, now what is a leilong deal? One man's leilong may not to be a leilong to another person, right? If somebody is buying a property for their own use, 3 or 5%, 7% drop from the launch price, they are very happy already. They probably were looking at the property and say, oh, now I'm buying it cheaper than previously. Sure. If you are buying, if you need the roof over your head, and if you know that if you borrow from the bank and you are able to service the loan, even if one of you may lose your job or your income may drop, then by all means go and do it, okay? Because you are comfortable and you know that you can easily pay for this property. And of course, like some of them say, the prices in the future, maybe 2 or 3 years, can come back up again. Who knows, right? Sure, what goes down may come up and what goes up may would come down. But what is leilong? Like I said, one man's leilong is to another person's poison. So ultimately, if you ask me, my personal idea of a leilong is 30% or more. That's my personal idea of a leilong. So if you have somebody coming to you and say this used to be sold at that price, and right now it is 30%. It is now up to you as an individual to decide for yourself. You know what? I'm prepared to take that risk. It's already 20% cheaper than the highest price it's ever been. So fine, right? You think that you want to go in at the time, even if it dropped by 30%, you have negated a certain percentage of the drop. So you are okay, and you probably will avoid any margin call because you are buying it probably lower than valuation. So when you hear leilong, it probably has to be lower than valuation. Okay, so you need to recognize that. I'm not one who say that, oh, today you cannot buy means you cannot buy. No, if you got a leilong product, buy law. If somebody really give you a leilong product, that's fine law. So again, I think that's fine. If tomorrow somebody come with a gila leilong product, even right now, you tell people don't invest, but that is a good product that somebody is like I heard that an industrial property, somebody ended up selling like 30 or 40% below below 30 or 40% way below other prices, and they went to buy and the rental return is good, and I said to them, why not?
Okay, actually, this one actually reminds me of another question because I never put down one of the slide. Just now you talk about margin call, and of course in all loan contracts, the bank will have the right to recall loan if certain condition or is met. Actually, as far as I understand from the bank, they can just exercise the clause whether whatever condition they set, they have the right to recall loan and all these things. But looking at the banking situation in Singapore, of course the government requested the bank to so-called allow the people to defer their loan by a while. But I think there's only so much that the bank can do. And coming December 2020, when all the banking delay is no more already. What do you think the chance of the banks will recall the loan or call for a margin call? And then, of course, this is where a lot of people will actually go bankrupt. Okay, because they cannot service the loan, they cannot pay for the margin call, and they cannot sell the asset. They have to go bankrupt already. What, in your view, what is the chance of that happening?
I would say, firstly, if somebody owns a residential property and they are able to service that loan on the residential property, the chance of a margin call is quite slim for most of the people who own a residential property purely for their own use. The industrial and the commercial properties, when it comes to the bank's relationship and margin call, tend to be a bit more business-like. So since it is more business-like, margin call on that part which doesn't affect your home and all that stuff, would kick in as long as the bank feels a need to. Okay. Then you have another situation of people who have more than one residential property, and they are regarded by the banks as property investors. So these property investors would face more risk on their secondary property to face margin calls. So at this point in time going forward, actually having a lot more property is a lot riskier for many properties owners. So I say to people, if you have excess properties that you do not need, then you may want to liquidate them. Find a good real estate agent who will be honest with you, tell you as it is in the real estate market, there is a storm bigger than any storm that we've ever seen in our entire life. Not what I say, but according to the government, according to experts all around the world, according to the IMF, according to the World Economic Forum, they are saying a storm, the impending storm. So a lot of people think that they are in a storm right now. We're not in a storm. You have, as you mentioned, moratorium that's given by the government, delaying all this action from the bank against the borrower. But all this actually will build up. It will build up your debt. And then, like it or not, you may have delayed it for 6 months or how many months. Eventually, the bank is going to ask you back for it. And that's where the risk comes. So I would say to people who have excess properties, if you want to do what is right, liquidate. And then some people say to me, to who? There are people who will buy a property because they need to, their first home. They will buy because they need to, they need a roof over their head. These people are not so much at risk. So if you forget about property as an investment vessel, you must also realize, even when people buy a car, people buy a van, people buy a truck, most people recognize that these are needs. They buy a car because they need to use it for their business. They don't expect to make money from the car. There are some people who buy property because they need to, a roof over their head. They don't want to stay with their mother-in-law. They need a roof over their head. They don't think about making money. So there will always be such groups of people. Okay?
Okay. So let me go on to the next question. Okay. Next question is, okay, let me share the screen first. Okay, next question is, okay. Wait. It's not responding to me. Wait. Oh, okay. This is the one. Okay, foreigners are buying property in Singapore and that will hold the price in Singapore. Is that true?
Okay. It is true that Singapore has been seen as a very stable economy country, blah, 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 in the past, and it is a place that people want to park their money to hedge against, deflation or currency devaluation in their own country, and so on and so forth. It is true to the aspect, to a certain aspect. But if you look at a recent article, I'm sorry, you can go and Google it because I cannot remember exactly. And again, it is our government office, I cannot remember which government office, that stated that there isn't a spike in property purchase in Singapore by foreigners. Yes, there's an increase, but not significant, number one. Number two, I remember I spoke to an agent and I told them that right now it is a market for people to buy for their own needs, not so much for investment. So the agent then said to me, but I had a China buyer bought a property from me recently. And then I asked the agent, just because it is a China buyer who bought a property from you, does that mean that China buyer is buying for investment? Not necessarily. So the idea that he is buying for investment is only in your head. They are buying for need as well. So you have these Chinese buyers who are coming in to buy their property. They buy because they need to. But going forward, you probably can see an impact on COVID as well, on the number of foreigners buying properties in our country. Because even for me right now, I am very, very concerned. Some of you know that I do a lot of business in Malaysia. I am very concerned, and I'm actually wondering, when will I be allowed to go back to Malaysia? So in that same token, more and more people are feeling helpless, feeling that they have been locked down, and feeling that they are probably not going to be able to travel until next year unless they have a very valid reason, like they have employment passes, they have business passes, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is a real situation that we have out there. So remember, just because you hear people say, oh, a foreigner bought a property in Singapore, it doesn't mean he's buying to invest. They also buy because they need to. Some maybe want to park their money here, some because they already have their families here. So obviously they are buying a property because they need to. Okay?
Okay, now the main question have been answered. So there are some of the Facebook question. So let me just see which one to answer first. There's one from Facebook, one from Zoom. But
Right.
just so that, of course, there are some information sharing. Like from Peter, he says that I heard some local banks started calling homeowners to top up already. So there is some information that maybe some of us can feel about it. Because if the banks are already looking for people to top up, that means the banks are feeling the pressure also. Okay, so the question is from Mr. Ling Chongbu. He asked on Facebook. So he said, property agent is saying that the market is going to go up in 2-3 years time. Is this true?
It could happen, okay? Assuming it happens, right? In 2-3 years time, assuming we recover from this COVID, assuming there's this vaccination found and so on and so forth, and people are starting to get themselves jabbed, and the economy starts to recover. So even if that's true, my question to you is this: should you buy now, or should you wait until it's at the bottom? So even if it's true, right, I would still wait till it has hit rock bottom before I buy. I hope I got my point through to you clearly, okay, right? So yes, for example here, would it go up? Maybe, I don't know, because we're at a peak. I feel that we are at a very high price. We're talking about $1,700 per square foot in suburban area. We're talking about 1,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 in those suburban area, our suburban area, Sing dollar. So I feel that if you look at our property price index, we are at a peak. So, okay, even if it goes up, right? Maybe it's come down about 5%. It goes up, goes back up another. The next question is, why don't I wait till the major crisis that the IMF and the WEF and all of them are saying to happen, that means come down this way, then come into the market? Why don't I wait till it goes to the bottom?
Of course, that being said, then the next question is what? When will be the bottom? How do we tell when is it at the bottom?
Good question. I like that question very much. Now, how do you know that it is at the bottom? Firstly, you got to let the crisis happen first. Okay. Obviously, if the crisis have not happened, it is not the bottom yet. When the crisis happen, this is you will see people doing this. Those who cannot hold will start to dump. That means they start dumping their property. They cannot hold already. Bank is going to come in for foreclosure. Bank is doing margin call, and some people have lost their jobs, some people have lost their income because of social distancing. Businesses have shrunk, you know, and so on and so forth. So as everybody's income start to drop, and let's say the stock market crash. Now, of course, the stock market crash will cause some people or business losses or stock market crashes will cause some people to have to get rid of their property very, very quickly to unlock some cash to save their lives or their cash flow problem. So this is something that may happen. When this happens, as they start to let go because they cannot hold anymore. So remember, I'm talking about a group of people who cannot hold versus a group of people who can hold. So the people who cannot hold anymore will start to dump. Then as they start to dump, there will be some people who start to pick up, even when it's not reached the bottom, because some people are also trigger happy. So it comes down 5%, some group go in. Comes down now 5%, another group goes in. Until you reach a point where you have a standoff. What do you mean by standoff? That means you have already got rid of everybody who cannot hold. When everybody cannot hold is gone, you are now left with a market where everybody can hold. That means those, in Chinese I say, 该卖的都卖了，该丢的都丢了. Okay? So you have a standoff, you have very low volume, and this low volume will happen for a while. But you'll still see some transactions. Unfortunately, it's not massive transaction, high transaction. You'll come to a bottom. So when is the bottom? Where the price don't keep going down. That's the bottom. And the volume is low. That's the bottom. How do you know? Because there's a standoff. I don't need to sell. I also don't need to buy. I wait long, but then in the end, there's some transaction. You know who sell to who? The one who need to sell. Who are the one who need to sell? Not because of they cannot hold. They need to sell maybe they are going through a divorce. They need to sell because of the other situation. They are upgrading. They are upgrading. So you will have a situation where those who need to sell will sell to those who need to buy. So you don't see a spike in price. You don't see a spike in volume. During this period of time, the government will probably remove all the different anti-speculation measures. So that's the best time to buy actually. Means you may not have the ABSD, you may no more have the SSD because the government wants to stimulate the market. So the market has already gone through a reset. So this is a time where you probably can go in and not be faced with all these additional taxes and holding period to incentivize investors. So that's the best time to go in. And at that point in time where everything is at the bottom, you will see this remain for a while and suddenly prices starts to come up. Now, when I look at the market right now and I look at all the SME that may be affected and the companies that are closing down, it is unlike 2008. Because in 2008, even though we had a very bad financial crisis, this financial crisis did not impact the majority of the people. But unlike 2008, this COVID with the lockdown and the social distancing impact literally everybody. You have to stay at home, you have to take a pay cut, employers are affected badly. So when you see this inactivity and when you see that the people who cannot hold are gone, then you are probably at the bottom of the market. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, there is one question. Okay, there is only one more question from Terence. Okay, just so that we all know, actually, this interview session will go on until about 8, which is about 8 minutes away. So there's only one question left. If you guys want to ask one or two more questions, I think we can slot in. But that if you want to ask the question, please ask now. Okay. So the last question is from Terence. Okay. What do you think will be the trend of property prices in 2021?
Based on, now I'm just analyzing the reports that are coming out, okay? The prices of property in 2021 highly dependent on, again, the vaccination coming out and when economies are going to start being normalized again. Apparently, if according to reports, if reports are correct, there's going to be second wave and third wave, and hopefully not. I really hope that, you know, for the sake of everybody, this won't happen. But if you have a second wave and a third wave, in 2021, I still see that the property market will not be very, very healthy. It will not be healthy at all. So I can't tell you exactly, because even right now, the so-called experts cannot tell you exactly when the vaccination is coming out. Nobody, not even the governments that you listen to, have come out to tell you when market is going to normalize. Nobody is saying that. So if they can't say that, I cannot say that also. I cannot tell you when it's going to normalize. And many of them are just, if you hear the narrative, every one of them constantly say to you that things are going to be worse, prepare for the worst, prepare for a second wave, prepare for a third wave, we need a vaccination, we need a vaccination. So ultimately, until everyone is jabbed, injected, vaccinated, they are happy that everyone in this world is has got a medical ID attached to them to prove that they are immune, then I find that it's going to be the same or same bad stuff happening until vaccination is found. So I don't know when. I really don't know when that vaccination is going to be found. And everybody is singing the same song. They don't know when. All I know is before that happens, everything is still going to be bad. I'm sorry to say this kind of thing.
Okay. Okay, so during when you're answering, there are two more questions come in. I see whether I can combine one,
Okay.
because I think one of them can be answered quite shortly. There's this Miss Adeline actually asked, where can we go and look at the volume of transaction for different types of property? Okay, where can we obtain this kind of info? That's one question. The other question is that from Diana Chan, he said, based on what we discussed here, we're talking about private property and probably commercial property. But what is Colin's view on public housing, like HDB? What is the future trend of these properties?
Okay, so I'm going to answer the first one. Okay, Adeline Ng's question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Adeline's Ng question, can you just refresh one by one?
Sure. Okay, where can we go?
Okay, where can we get the information? You can go to the URA website. Now, if anybody wants this information, after this live video, I can post the link below this video, okay, in the comment section. So you can go and look at data. You can go and look at transacted information. There are also certain consultancy companies, consultancy firms that also publish data on our transaction, our volume. Now, obviously, you might have seen that there was a recent spike in volume, right? Higher than any time. But this spike, is it because our property prices are at the bottom? No. As I've mentioned, there's a pent-up demand for people who want to buy property for their own use. So even for people who want to buy property for their own use, some people have this characteristic, this mentality, why don't I wait a while until price drop further? So when price drop further because of COVID, many of these people who have been waiting to buy a home decided now is the time. So all of them came in and started buying this property and invested, not invested, buying this property because it is something that they wanted, it's something that they needed, and it's now cheaper. So this pent-up market demand is still from people who needed property. Okay, the second question, the last one.
The second question is, based on what we discussed here, we are talking about private property. What is Colin's view on public housing like HDB? What is the future trend of this property?
Okay, this is a very good question. A lot of people say to me, no, this is a very interesting thing, and I want everybody to listen carefully. A lot of people say things like this, literally very layman. Government won't let HDB prices come down because HDB prices is government money coming into the government. Now, if a government can affect valuation of public housing deliberately, then the institution of valuation will not be, what's the word that I want to use? That means if as and when I can suka change valuation for the sake of because I'm the government, ultimately people cannot trust this valuation system anymore because it's not a valuation based on market forces, a valuation based on decisions made by the government. If you notice how government affect prices of property or prices of property, you will discover that government affects demand and supply just like anywhere else. Demand and supply will affect property prices. Now, some people may not recognize this. In 2008 or 2009, the Singapore government implemented measures that affected the resale market of HDB. Right? For example, it has to be 5 years MOP. There were some additional terms like, you cannot do this, you cannot. There were additional terms driving people away from the resale market towards the buying brand new from the government. Of course, this is not done. You can't say it's done deliberately to affect the resale market, but it affected the resale market. It's not done deliberately for that. I'm not going to make any judgment call on that. But if you look at the valuation of property prices, and I'm going to say this because this is a real thing that happened. My own uncle in 1997, if I'm not wrong, or around that period of time, booked a brand new HDB flat from the government. When he was coming back to make another appointment to confirm his purchase and to pay whatever deposit he needed to, in a year or so, a couple of years after the 1997 economic crisis, we found out that other people, the unit that he booked, my uncle in Woodlands, was at a price, lower floor, 100 over 1,000 to 200,000. I know it's 100 over 1,000 at least. Higher than someone else buying in 1999 or 2000. That means he has to make a decision right now. Should I buy this price at this price, okay, or should I give up? So I told him to give up. I said, Kaufu, Cantonese, I said, the price is 100 over 1,000 for your second floor. People are paying 100 over 1,000 less for the fourth floor or the fifth floor. And he made a decision to give up. So what does that tell you? So as far as the government is concerned, the government can deliberately affect demand to affect valuation, but the government cannot deliberately decide on valuation. Okay? It will lose the integrity. That's the word I wanted to use. Valuation system will lose its integrity. So for people to say this, it doesn't hold water at all. Okay? So what about HDB? So those people who buy in 1997 HDB, if anybody is listening here, you may already have the experience. If you had bought in 1997 HDB and you that was the peak, and you sold it after during SARS, or you sold it even in the 2000.com bubble or whatever, you also lost money. And some of these people who bought HDB in 1997 and sold in 2003 lost 100,000 for a 4-bedroom apartment. So will HDB be affected? Of course. How? When private property prices start to come down, what will happen to demand for this private property when the prices come down? It will go up. From where? So people, instead of buying HDB now, say, hey, you know what? I must well buy private because its prices are cheap. Then that will affect the demand for HDB. And when the demand for HDB goes down, same thing. Sellers who wants to sell so that they can buy a private, I better take advantage of the opportunity to buy a cheap private right now. So they reduce to quickly get rid of their HDB so that they can move on to a private property. So these are things that happen. I hope I answer your question. So HDB is not immune to a financial crisis. You're welcome, Diana.
Actually, following that, recently there is a HDB in Clementi that is sold for 1 million. What do you think of it?
I think to each his own. The guy is buying for his home. He wants to be. He can now brag to everybody he bought the most expensive HDB during the financial crisis. To each his own.
Okay. Anyway,
ask any investment gurus whether they'll do that.
Okay. Anyway, we are at the end of the. Let me see whether there's any last question in Facebook or whatever. Actually, on Zoom there's nobody. Okay, and on Facebook Live there were 47 people viewing live. That's not too bad. Okay. Anyway, okay, we are at the end of the session. Also, in the meantime, there are people who ask me whether this session will be recorded and be put up. Anyway, it's immediately recorded because it's on Facebook Live. After I close out this session, you'll be on Facebook. Okay, and of course, at the meantime, of course, I will also be doing a YouTube version. YouTube version is like summarize the highlights, So maybe instead of seeing 1 hour, I will probably highlight the question, and then maybe that YouTube version will be probably 5 minutes long or whatever, but focusing on the crux of the question. Okay. So, but in any case, the full video is always there on Facebook. I will also on YouTube. I will have full version also, which is the whole session. Okay. So let's see. Diana asked, the answer you just I just said it. The whole session will be recorded live, and in fact after I close out this session, it would be on Facebook on my wall. Okay, so I will just put my Facebook link to you. Facebook.com/Raymond2. That's my account. Add me as friend. I think I allow everyone to see anyway. So even if you follow me and not my friend, you can see the video. Okay, so let me see.
You're all welcome. Yeah. Share the video so that you can help more people make the correct decision.
Yeah. By all means, the video on Facebook will forever be free. You can just share with anyone. The YouTube video will also be free also, but the YouTube video is probably the highlights, 5 minutes, rather than people may tell you I don't have time to see through the 1 hour of things. Okay, so at the moment before we go off, let's thank Colin once again. Okay, these are the experts that they are often on my Facebook wall that from time to time I find that they are good resource that I can ask them for interview. So the audience, thank you very much for participating, and the people on Facebook, 44 of them, thank you very much for being on Facebook. Okay, and of course those who are on Facebook, please share this video on your wall and share as many people as possible. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So at this moment, I shall end the session. Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Right.